You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
Man, that cheap-ass watch.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
There's no such thing as jellies. I made them up.
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mount Dork.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm back. Baba Yaga.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork. I'm a racist. You're a Republican. I don't know what the is going on. And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
Yay! All four dorks back in the dork cave.
That was last week, too, though. Now it's like a
no,
normal thing.
Ryan wasn't
I
here.
missed.
Oh, it felt like you were here.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, because I
maybe
felt
it
it in my
wasn't.
jellies.
Oh.
That sounds gross.
Brian, get out of
Brian,
Lisa's
I'm
jellies.
so sorry. I didn't mean to, though. But I'm
That's
glad.
even weirder because that means you're wandering into somebody's jellies.
Yeah,
Accidentally.
Yeah,
Accidentally.
accidentally?
Whoops. Don't you hate that when you just
Yeah.
accidentally step in somebody's jellies?
Oh,
Watch where you're going.
Yeah.
That's how I
And
get
you're a
my Harry
guest.
Potter.
You're like,
Yeah.
should I even say
Ooh.
anything?
No, right?
Well, we're wild. Let's
Yeah, it started. That's how it is when we all four get together.
I missed you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
too.
I know we did a Avengers Endgame big review cast, but now we're back in the normal format of a weekend dork plus a review cast. Ooh, this is like true blue It Mod.
Yeah, it should be an interesting review cast.
Yes, it should be. I haven't looked at your letterbox,
Oh,
Brian.
you haven't? Okay.
I have. Can I
Have you?
spoil it?
No.
It's not, I rate on the curve. Right on the curve.
Yeah.
So,
So did I.
there you go. There you
On,
go.
What's the
on an
curve?
upward curve or the downward curve?
Well,
Let's
we'll save that.
Back
We'll
half
save
of the
that.
show. Back half
There
of the
you
show.
go. There you go.
Okay. So how was your weeks in Dork since you weren't here last week either?
Oh goodness, I can't even remember. I can't remember what I did yesterday. Anyway, my weekend dork was actually not too bad. Was doing some editing, so I had some movies on in the background. I decided to rewatch It because the trailer for It 2, It Chapter 2, let me recorrect. So, It Chapter 2 came out, and which freaked the hell out of me. Go to the YouTube page
I
if you
saw
want to
that.
see.
Dude, it's not that scary, man.
Well, I didn't know in the beginning. It wasn't scary, but it was creepy.
Yeah.
It was extremely creepy. But I
liked your reaction.
It was, yeah. But so I said, you know what? I want to revisit it. And because I haven't seen it since the theater. I only saw it once. And it didn't impress me that much, even though I thought it was a very well-made film.
I remember. Yeah, you're lukewarm. I was lukewarm on it as well.
Okay, because I remember you were really anticipating it up to the release of it.
Yep, I was.
Yeah. And but going back to rewatch it, I watched it last night without all the hype. I really found myself to enjoy the film.
I'm gonna rewatch it
a lot more. But I think what I really liked about it was the coming of age factor of it, because the movie doesn't really have. And not saying that the movie has to have jump scares to be scary, but I didn't really find it to be that scary of a film. But going back to rewatch it, it does really have that creep factor that I think the It Chapter 2 trailer kind of evokes, especially playing out that whole scene with Jessica Chastain's character coming back to her apartment. I think that first film, and Andy Muschietti does a great job of kind of building that tension and building that suspense. And but I think that first film really does work because it is kind of like a coming of age film that feels like it's set during that time. And I think those kids really embody the essence of that in that movie to really kind of make you kind of, really delve into that story and delve into what those characters are kind of going through. And I think, what's his name, Bill Skarsgård is really good
I like him a lot.
as Pennywise.
I wish they would let him just be Pennywise. Every time the CG-ness of Pennywise enters into the film, I'm not crazy about it.
But I found, well, how many times have you seen it?
I saw it once in the theater, and I watched half of it at home.
Okay.
Lisa made me turn it off because she was so bored.
Damn.
With what?
It.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's not a movie that I specifically would go back and revisit, many times. But because the trailer just came out, and we're on the heels of the movie coming back in September for Chapter 2, I think that I wanted to go back and revisit the first film. So that was one thing I was able to kind of do.
But what you're saying is that my memory of it might be wrong, that you felt like there wasn't a lot of CG in the film?
Yeah, I don't think, at least that I could tell, because, I mean, sometimes I'm not the best person to really kind of point out CG. I'm the person that didn't know about...
that face replace situation in...
Rogue One, yeah.
Yeah, Rogue One, I was about to mention.
Oh, no, I was talking about face replace in that Kerrigan movie.
Nancy Kerrigan.
Oh,
Icon. Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that either.
I think it's sweet.
Yeah,
I like, Brian gets super invested.
Yeah, I get invested in the story.
He suspends his disbelief like so far away.
I
he
really
suspends or really high. I don't know.
I really do, and I find that to be kind of like, it makes my experiences really more enjoyable.
Well, we should all try to do that more often. I certainly believe that.
Yeah, I know that. Well, I don't want to get on a tangent about comic book movies, but never mind. I won't go there. But yeah. So I guess the only other thing I really wanted to talk about was, and I don't think I've talked about it since the show premiered, Game of Thrones. We haven't really talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, Darren and I talked about it a little bit last week. I know that you two have been putting out some really great reviews and reactions. Yeah. I've enjoyed them. It's been part of my ritual to watch them the next day after watching the episode.
Thank you, Brad.
And arguing at the screen, going, "What? They're wrong about that." Well, maybe they're right. I don't know.
But it's been really enjoyable. As of this recording, it has been 4 episodes. So by the time this recording goes up, we should have the review for episode 5, and of course the reaction will be out in a couple of days as well. So coming into the penultimate episode, there's been a lot going on in Game of Thrones. I've been enjoying the season. One of my favorite things is, the Monday morning water cooler talk, and seeing all the memes that come out Monday morning, and seeing all the reactions and reviews. And, it's interesting to see how people are responding to certain episodes. I know last week there were some issues that people may have had as far as like character motivations or people acting outside of their character. But I found last week's episode to kind of be more of a return to form. I know me and Darren, we talked about that as far as like coming off of episode 3 with the long night, which there was a lot of reaction to how dark that episode was, and you really couldn't see a lot, and also just choices made during that battle that just did not really make a lot of sense.
That was a good yep, Brad.
Yep.
But coming back to episode 4, Darren talked about it as well, where we're kind of getting more to form, where we're dealing a lot more with the character interactions, dealing with more scheming and plotting, and the things that Game of Thrones, especially seasons 1 through 4, was kind of known for, and getting to see that as we kind of lead to the battle with Cersei. I don't know. I really found that episode to be shocking and to really kind of be more true to form to what I'm normally used to seeing. Of course, with the death of Rhaegal, the dragon, which I did not see coming. So now,
gotta watch out for those big crossbows.
Right.
Yeah, the Scorpion, Euron. Euron's an interesting villain.
Interesting indeed.
Yeah,
I definitely use the definition of interesting that Brian likes to drop.
He's way too cartoony, and I don't like the fact that the show is really trying to make him to be the big bad like
it's
Ramsay.
The worst. It's awful.
And he's not
interesting.
He's not interesting at all. And he's way too cartoony for me for this show.
Like, what is Cersei doing with this dude?
Well, Cersei's using him.
I know.
And I know, like, and Cersei will not hesitate to kill him. I mean, if she feels that he's a threat or if it's to her advantage, she'll kill him.
She's going to drop that dude.
At some point, it could be tonight.
Oh, it's gonna happen tonight.
I mean, but I like Cersei, and as far as the way she's playing the game right now, and the way she's manipulating all these different chess pieces.
At this
on
point,
the board.
I want her to win.
It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, she's evil.
She's bad.
She's bad. But I respect how she's playing the game. I really do. And Tyrion. I love the conversation between Tyrion and Varys because Varys is at a point where, and the conversation he had with Tyrion as far as like, his goal is to protect the realm. And he sees things in Dany that now he may not think that she is the right person to rule. And it could be Jon. And he's talking to him about maybe we should start backing Jon. But the thing is, it's like, I think Varys might be in trouble.
Oh yeah,
I think Varys, because if Dany gets wind to, I'm not saying that Varys is plotting, but if she catches wind to as far as like what his real motivations are behind her back,
where his allegiance lies.
Yeah.
What's the satisfying ending for you? And I'll ask you again next week before the final episode. But what do you want to see? Like if Brian Young was the showrunner of Game of Thrones, how do you want this series to end?
From where we are right now,
no, from the beginning.
No.
From what you set up in the beginning, like all the way to now.
Like, it's hard for me to go back there.
I think what you have. Let's just go with what we have now.
What we have now and what I see coming. And again, not seeing the episode tonight. Granted, when this comes out, we've already seen that episode.
Not necessarily what you see coming. What you want to happen from this point forward.
Honestly, I would want to see Jon on the throne. Yeah, I want to see Jon on the throne. And I think going back, and again, I want to get away from theories because I don't want to think too much as far as predicting what's going to happen in these next 2 episodes. But I think what the show is giving us is that he will be on the throne. And I'm starting to get away from like how the show is swerving and showing us something and trying to do sleight of hand and just taking what the show is giving us. And from what I'm seeing, I think that everything is leading to him possibly being on the throne.
You'd be happy with that?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, I would have loved to have seen Dany, but I think Dany is all things from what the show is showing us is Dany is going to follow in her father's footsteps as far as being the Mad Queen. Although I thought Cersei was following in that, but I guess we'll find out tonight. I don't know.
Darren, I pose the question to you. Do you want, is your ideal ending Jon on the throne?
No.
What's your ideal ending?
Daenerys on the throne and shit's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because, the whole power corrupts thing. But also, like, it would just feel in line with what has been happening since, like, from day one. Jon not being on the throne because he doesn't want to be on the throne, and Dany being on the throne because she wants to be on the throne. I would have her on the throne. I would have Tyrion and Sansa join houses, but it'd be bittersweet for Tyrion as he'd be a good ruler, but also seeing Dany and having to kneel and that be his queen, knowing that he doesn't truly feel like she's right for that. Like, it just would be like almost like a bleak type ending, because the show has always been about the bleakness, and there's never been happiness for anyone in that show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a theory going around that Tyrion could also be a Targaryen, possibly.
Yeah.
As far as like maybe the Mad King impregnated his mother, and it wasn't Tywin.
No.
And which would explain like his connection with the dragon that one season when he goes down into the dungeon.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that he has claim to the throne in some way, or like what does that?
I don't know, because that would be interesting if Tyrion ends up on the throne.
No way that happens.
You don't think so?
But no, I don't think so. I mean, that might be interesting to me.
It could be. It could be.
But what I'm saying is that if that revelation comes out, and not assuming he would end up on the throne, but like, just what does that mean? Like, if it came out that he's a Targaryen,
that's what I'm saying, because it doesn't.
Anything?
Yeah, and I think with 2 episodes left, it's hard to kind of go down that storyline.
It would make him an elder Targaryen, so wouldn't he have?
I mean, it
the
would
rightful
be
heir over Jon?
Jon and
Dany, because he actually would be.
The eldest.
He would be the heir to the Mad King, because he would be Dany's sister, and so
he would be Dany's sister,
brother.
Another twist. Oh shit!
Well,
these theories.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know. I'm enjoying the show. I'm wearing my Dracarys shirt in honor of Missandei, her final words.
Whoosh.
So I don't know. She may lay waste to King's Landing, but Cersei, she's got all the people of King's Landing out there in the Red Keep as a human shield. Because
Dany doesn't care.
Yeah, I know. At this point,
she doesn't care.
But anyway, so that's my weekend dork. Game of Thrones. Some.
Like I
stuff.
said, after every episode, I go to the Turtle Dorks feed. I look at Neil Miller of Storm of Spoilers and Joanna Robinson of Storm of Spoilers. That's like part of my process, seeing how people are feeling about Game of Thrones.
Yeah. 2 left, and it's all over.
I go to Lisa, and she's on the couch sleeping.
Yay! Speaking of which,
Yes.
Good morning, wife dork.
Hello. I just took a nap.
Yay.
This should be a very chill Lisa
Low-key?
weekend dork. Yeah.
All right.
I'm still in my Boston Legal rewatch.
Yeah.
I'm up to season 2, episode 22.
Of how many seasons?
There are what?
5 seasons.
5 seasons.
Oh, okay.
And I think when I'm done, somewhere I have to do some kind of ode to Boston Legal and what it has meant to me as a show, and how I wonder, I think for sure nowadays a show like this could not exist. It's mostly an older cast. The characters of Denny Crane and Alan Shore are famously misogynist. Denny Crane is also a gun nut.
He's a right-wing nut job.
Yeah, right-wing nut job. But somehow, particularly with the Alan Shore character, because he
Who's
plays
a left-wing nut job.
Left-wing nut job. But how he deals with his own shame of the man he has become, and that in contrast with his ideals and how well-intentioned he is for others while creating a miserable life for himself. I don't know. I just find it really endlessly fascinating. And every episode I turn it on, I'm flipping the discs. I'm not streaming this, so I'm invested. I'm opening and closing boxes left and right. Just the familiar snap of getting a DVD out. But I just every episode I'm just like, I can't believe it's this episode. This is so wonderful. It brings back such wonderful memories. So I'm gonna talk about it in some kind of complete form.
You should write an essay.
I was gonna say, are you gonna do it in written form, on your website or something?
Maybe I'll do it in written form. I'll definitely do an overall summary. And
Nice.
but I feel like I need to gather my thoughts about this show, especially because it is one that I go back to. It's one of my comfort shows, and I feel like it's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. I feel like Gilmore Girls, everybody loves Gilmore Girls, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that has its following, but there's just something about Boston Legal. And it is like Boston Legal, not to get ahead of myself, but it does have the absolutely best written season finale. Just the way all of the storylines are wrapped up. And it has a message. I just love it. So
well, I have a suggestion with which to maybe talk about your Boston Legal that I will propose to you off air.
Ooh! Oh my goodness, a real life tease.
Yeah, so as not to be rejected on air in front of our
sure.
listeners.
I love it. Okay, I look forward to my future. I don't care about my listeners; they don't know what's going to happen.
Oh.
Okay, so I think I'm just going to heartfeltly recommend a book, and it is a graphic novel called "My Boyfriend Is a Bear."
Yeah.
Have I told you guys about this book?
You mentioned it last episode or one
Did
of the
I
last
really?
2 episodes. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll recommend it again.
Depth. You said you were going to be checking it out, I think.
Oh, yeah. This isn't
Was
from
this a book
this
club?
week. No. This was just like I was standing in the comic book store and I was like, "This is a crazy title."
Oh, that's right.
I picked it up. I've already said this on a Weekend Dork. Should we go back and edit this part out? I haven't done anything this week, to be honest. I saw Pokemon Go. It was okay. We'll talk about it later.
Oh.
But I got nothing going on this week. What else have I done?
We just had Mother's Day dinner.
Yeah, I've had a lot of dinner.
Yeah, we just, we did my folks, your folks. No.
Nothing at the Alamo?
That could be dorky.
No.
My
parents are very dorky, but not in a way that's fun and hilarious.
Super busy this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that happens.
I really, I'm really enjoying what we're doing on the CBCC podcast. I really enjoyed reading Thanos Wins, Donnie Cates.
So plug the shit out of that then.
Yeah,
real quick,
yeah. We just finished our Thanos death arc on CBCC and talking about my new favorite self-help guru, Brene Brown. I think that following this arc of Thanos and how, like, the way it's presented in both Thanos Rising, which is the first book we read, and Thanos Wins, which is the last book we read, is that Thanos was rejected at birth, right, by his mother. He was born, and when his mother looked at him and looked into his eyes, she had a foreboding sense of the person he was going to become, and she tried to murder him right at birth. And in her research, Brene Brown found that, in a study she read, she found that social rejection is felt in the brain like physical pain. So the reason why some people feel social situations is because, let's say, in 9th grade youth group, we were doing a get to know you exercise, and one of the get to know you exercises was that you talk to 3 people you've never met, and maybe a really cute boy walked up to you and started talking to you, but then when the exercise was over, instead of ending the conversation, he just walked away. And then that person, who is me, is now never returns to youth group again. You know, like, that social rejection went in my head as physical pain. So now, like, that idea of, well, you don't touch the stove because if you touch the stove, it's hot. I go, like, don't go to youth group, because if you go to youth group, you will be rejected and your feelings are hurt. So Thanos started suffering right at birth about the person he was. He felt rejected by his mother. He felt rejected by his father. His peers did not respect his talents. And so this idea that everything he did was to please Mistress Death, who convinced him that she could be the only source of love for him. She could be his reason. She can be the person who gives him belonging by making him part of the fabric of the narrative of the universe. And just that idea of thinking about how shame and social rejection can make you begin to act in ways contrary to your values and turn you into a completely different person. And I've just found this entire journey we've taken with Thanos as a character through the lens of shame research really, really interesting. And I find myself applying that to all kinds of narratives. I've applied it to Endgame. I've applied it to characters on Boston Legal. I just find it. I've applied it to my friends. I've applied it to everything, and I really think that idea of becoming shame resilient and looking for situations where you may be being vulnerable. You might be putting yourself at risk of uncertainty, or risk of physical harm, or even like risk of emotional exposure. But when you take those risks and you lean into them, that's when you start meeting your goals, you know? So I found that really interesting. So if you want to find out what all of my intricate thoughts on that, you can listen to our other podcast, Comic Book Couples Counseling. And you should still read My Boyfriend is a Bear, because clearly I love it if I'm bringing it up on 2 episodes.
We've been doing comic book couples counseling for almost 5 months. Maybe we actually just hit the 5-month mark. We just did our 20th episode. And we've covered a whole bunch of self-help guru types. We've pulled from the bestseller lists and the quote-unquote classics. And this is the first one where Lisa read it and actually was like, yeah, this Brene Brown is kind of in tune with my way of thinking. And
well, I find what she says actually applicable to my life.
Right. Whereas like men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
that's
while
just
it's a popular
misogynist
title,
bullshit.
is garbage.
And I think that there is some fun in reading something that is narrow-minded and you can point out the errors and there is something playful about that, especially when like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I mean, that was so large in the zeitgeist, or even he's just not that into you. Like in the was that early aughts, late 90s? Like that's everything everybody talked about. But Brene Brown is having this cultural moment where like I picked her book because I was just like, what are the best relationship books? Just Googling around. And I picked it because I picked it ironically because I'm just like, well, do you know who could use some vulnerability? Thanos, ha ha ha. Like this is why I picked it. But then like I found myself really relating to the idea of like maybe I haven't because I went to music school and but once I came out of music school I really didn't start doing auditions, and I want to be a writer, but maybe I'm not, maybe I don't go out of my way to pitch to places because I do feel that rejection. So I found myself identifying with if you approach every life decision defensively, going I don't want to do this because my feelings might get hurt, or I don't want to do this because if I get a no, that door will be closed for me, and maybe I'll be more ready later. Maybe I'll be a different person later. So I really identified with I feel like there are parts of my life where I have suffered from defensive living. So I've just found a lot of purpose in this.
Yeah,
book,
and now you're trying to put yourself out there more often.
Baby steps. Yeah, baby steps.
Brave baby steps, as Captain America in Endgame would say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Lisa.
But you should read My Boyfriend is a Bear. It's my favorite book I've read in a long time, except for maybe Donny Cates.
I haven't read it yet, but we just ordered another copy.
Because I sold the copy that I had read in the comic book store because I was reading it and then a woman walked up to me and goes, can you recommend a comic book to me? And I was like, well, I can recommend this one. It's in my hands. And then she bought it and I was like, now I have to find another copy. And there wasn't one.
Damn.
And I feel bad because now I've read it for free. I just stole all, that's mind theft. I stole all the thoughts in the book and didn't pay for it.
I had an employee once accuse a customer of doing mental theft because he came in and read all the magazines and never purchased.
Mental theft.
Yeah, I had to have a conversation with that employee.
I used to
like
do
a
that.
time heist.
Yeah,
A mind heist.
I did that in college. I would just go to the bookstore and I would just read a book standing in the
bookstores
bookstore.
set it up that way. That's why they put the plushy couches in there and have Starbucks.
I know.
Yeah.
Get a cappuccino and just chill.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
But I do want Pamela Rabone to
get
have
your
my
cash,
money and
yeah.
Kat Ferris.
Well,
the
she
illustrator.
has. She's got it. It's only $12 on Amazon Prime. So.
It's a deal and a steal for a book that you'll carry in your heart forever.
Yeah.
All right. Brad.
Yes.
How was your week in Dork?
My week in Dork was great because I got to see an early screening of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum.
Oh, you fucker.
I am interviewing the director of the movie next week. Yes,
What?
Ryan, I know.
Chad Stahelski.
Yep, we're going to get on the phone.
Oh,
we're going to
my
have a chat, and I'm going to talk to him about The Matrix.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to talk about The Matrix. I might a little. Leave the last question for The Matrix. So I'm really excited about that. And my relationship with the John Wick films was kind of interesting because the first movie, when that came out, I had just seen The Raid 2. And I remember being super snobby about everyone loving John Wick. And I was like, you guys should be watching The Raid. Why aren't you talking about The Raid? The Raid's the best action. There's no movie like The Raid. And so I was very kind of snooty about the first John Wick. Then the second one came out. And I really loved the second John Wick, and I went back and I revisited the first one, and I appreciated the first one a little bit more. And now this third one, like, they're truly building a saga. Like, you know, the second movie opened up a lot more of the mythology around the Continental, and this one goes even further into the mythology. I'm not going to spoil anything because everyone around this table hasn't seen the film yet. You listeners haven't had a chance to see the film yet. I give it 2 thumbs way up. The opening of the film, it picks up immediately where the last one left off, with him being not disavowed. What's it called? Excommunicated. Thank you. He gets excommunicated and he's on the run. He's got minutes until the excommunication happens, so he's got to get all his affairs in order before all the assassins in the world come after him. And man, once that clock ticks, there are two fights right off the beginning of the movie, and one's really good. I was like, oh, that's really great. And you know, I'm watching it in a press scenario, so like everyone's a little muted in the reaction. So like that first fight happens, everyone's like, you know, there's some audible reaction to it. Then there is this second fight that happens in the movie, and everybody in the theater lost their minds watching this fight. And you see pieces of it in the trailer. Okay. But the fight is so good, the movie never matches it again for me. And when the movie shifts a little bit into exploring the mythology and opening up the mythology, I'm a little less interested. They introduced this character, the adjudicator, into the movie. I'm not a big fan of the adjudicator character. Okay. And I feel like they take up far too much time. But that being said, when the movie is an action movie and when the movie is centered on Keanu Reeves, it is so damn good. And I'll say, like, the opening fight scene is amazing, and then the final battle is amazing. And Mark Dacascos,
I heard.
I know, so good.
Okay, I heard great things about him.
Halle Berry and the dogs are great, but Mark Dacascos is like the person I want to be championing that's not named Keanu Reeves. He is fantastic.
Speaking of the Raid films, how's Mad Dog and then the other guy from Raid 2?
So that's my second favorite scene of the whole movie. Okay. I'm not going to talk about it because I want you guys to see it. But he is so good in the movie. Like, the movie, like, action-wise, is top tier. I think, you know, the complaints and the snootiness that I had about the first John Wick compared to the Raid films, it relies a little too heavily on some CGI assist. And yeah, that's all I'll say. And so some of that stuff is, you know, like, but the action itself, the choreography, the ideas behind the action, the narrative of the action is all phenomenal. And I do like where this film goes. And I'm reserving my final rating. I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. That's better than the first movie, in my opinion. Not as good as the second film. But I am going to go see all 3 at the Alamo Drafthouse for their trilogy screening. And I'm really excited to see that because I want to figure out how these new revelations of character and mythology that are introduced in chapter 3 fit into my feelings of those characters and that world in the first 2. I think there are elements where people are going to be like, yes, this is what I wanted to happen, but there might also be a little controversy too. So I don't know. And like, I just want Keanu Reeves to be making John Wick movies for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like this is just tailor-made for him. Yeah. So,
I'm looking forward to doing that review cast next week with you guys.
I'll wait. Got my tickets.
Yeah. And that was my Week in Dork primarily. Like I said with Lisa, we've been crazy busy this week, and I keep wanting to get out the theater. I want to see Long Shot. I know some people saw Long Shot, but I haven't seen it yet. I still want to see High Life. I wanted to see 4-Color, but guess what? 4-Color is gone. No, they've taken it out of the theaters in the DC area, which is a bummer. But what are you going to do? So that's my Week in Dork, Darren.
All right. Thank you for sharing. My Week in Dork, I finished up Amazon's Hannah series.
I didn't realize you were watching that.
I was.
And?
I was piecemealing it together. It's a decent series. It suffers from that thing where you have episodes that you could do without in a series. But as far as expanding on the film, I I actually like this version of the character better than the film version. And it's not to say that there was anything wrong with the film version. It's really almost unfair to compare the two because you get to spend a lot more time with this character and learning more and having more depth added to the character with this long form storytelling. So, but with that, it can't be helped for me that I enjoy this version of the character more. So I saw that. I got to check out Wandering Earth on Netflix, that huge Chinese blockbuster film.
I meant to check that out.
You know, it's China's Armageddon. You know, it's if you can, like Armageddon, if you can get past the silliness of the science and stuff like that, then it's a decent popcorn film. I will say, like the special effects and just the concept of what they're the conceit behind the film is. It's Armageddon nuts times 1,000. Like the shit's crazy, but you know your typical melodrama is to be found there. But I just as far as science fiction storytelling wise, I just found it a unique scenario for a film, and it's based off of a book, from my understanding, that I have not read. So how faithful or any type of adaptation changes that they've made to the film from the book or the source material, I'm not aware of. But I enjoyed the film. It was silly fun. But I did get to see. I got to the movies twice this week. I saw Detective Pikachu, but also got to see Long Shot. Me and the girl got to see Long Shot last night.
You and your girl. Have you talked about you and your girl on this podcast before?
I just did.
Darren's got a girl.
What? So anyway, so as not to embarrass her, I got to see Long Shot, which it came out last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
didn't get around to seeing it. I was watching Avengers for the 17th time or some shit.
Have you watched Avengers this week?
Not yet.
Yeah, same. Took a break.
I gotta get one more IMAX screening in, but no. So this film, from my understanding, at one point was called Flarsky.
Right.
Yeah. They changed it to Long Shot, and it's about title character Fred Flarsky, as played by Seth Rogan. He is a journalist or writer working for a publication that they're trying to keep the integrity of journalism alive, and they're independent, so they're against the big machine. And then the big machine ends up buying that company out, and then he says, you know what, I will not compromise my moral integrity. I quit. I'm not going to be working for the guy that we're fighting against. So he quits in the opening of the film, leaving him with a lot of spare time on his hands, and he confides in his best friend, as played by O'Shea Jackson Jr., who steals every scene that he's in the film. Like, he is super funny in the film. It's weird that he's the comic relief in this comedy. Like, there are other funny bits in it, but like he's great. I didn't know he had that in him. But anyway, so they go to this to get him out of his funk. They go to this event, which is in the trailer. And he sees an old childhood crush, as played by Charlize Theron, and Charlotte Field, and she is Secretary of State, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and her intentions are to run for the presidency. Well, anyway, when he was 15, she was a little bit older, or was he 13? She was a little bit older. Yeah, he was 13. She babysat for him, and she was the cool babysitter, and an awkward experience happened, and then that was his lasting and her lasting impression of both parties. And so anyway, he reintroduces himself to her because she sort of recognizes him. And then, as in the trailer, she decides, I wouldn't mind. I've read some of his stuff, because his advisors are, who's that guy you were hanging out with? So everybody's doing background checks on him, and they pull up some of his stuff, his writing. And, they're like, well, he's a pretty good writer. And so she's thinking about get her campaign trail and someone to punch up her speeches, or a speech writer. And so she ends up hiring him to do that. And so prior to her jumping on the campaign trail and announcing her run for presidency, she wants to she comes up with this environmental initiative that she wants to go around and get the get the cooperation from multiple nations so she can present this. And once she presents this, she will use that as a springboard for her presidency. And so while she's doing all this traveling, Flarsky is following her around, learning about her so that he can make those speeches more personal. And in doing that, you have he's learning about her, she's learning about him, and they fall in love. And then it's the Seth Rogen, because of his lifestyle, that image, is it going to be possible? Because in her line of work, image is everything.
Right.
And especially in today, even if that wasn't her job, social media, your how people perceive you, your public perception. So
Trump has to be very careful about his perception.
Well, anyway, can she have happiness with this guy who, in the public's eyes is not the ideal match? And can he maintain his integrity, or is he willing to sacrifice who he is to be what the public wants him to be if he's going to be with her? So you have your typical rom-com skeletons there, but I would say the meat on those bones is endearing and it's funny. Like Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen play off of each other very well. Again, O'Shea Jackson Jr., he's funny in it. She has two assistants outside of Seth Rogen, and I'm sorry I haven't.
June Diane Raphael from How Did This Get Made?
She is great. She is so funny in the film. Actually, both of her assistants are really funny. The whole entire cast are great in the film. If you can get past your rom-com tropes, which some of them are there, but some of them, even like how things play out, things go well, and then things go really well, and then something has to happen to drive a wedge between the two, and then one of the two have to realize, I made a mistake. Let me go get this person. That you have that there, but the way that those things play out was a little different than what I expected. So I appreciated that. And at the end of the day, it was just funny. I found it to be really funny, which to me, that's mostly what I'm looking for when I go for a comedy. Like you have to make me laugh. And so I give it 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. If you would dig those types of movies, if you like Seth Rogen, if you like Charlize Theron, I think you will enjoy the film. Now, having said that, when we come back for the break, our review cast for this week is Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Pikachu.
Pika, Pika.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the film, stop what you're doing, go check it out. Or if you don't want to see the film and you don't care about spoilers, just stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This week, our review cast is for Pokemon Detective Pikachu. This is the first live adaptation of Nintendo's worldwide phenomenon video game / merchandise / cartoon moneymaker. I mentioned it before on the podcast when it was announced that the first live action Pokemon movie would be Pokemon Detective Pikachu, centered around a detective story involving Pikachu doing detective work. As someone who was not a huge, and I'm full disclosure, the only Pokemon game I've ever played was Pokemon Go for the iPhone.
Same.
Was not a viewer of the cartoon on a weekly basis. Did not collect any of the cards. Actually, my siblings, Michael and Trina and Zach, may have collected the cards, but I didn't. I never collected the cards. Didn't really watch the cartoon. So I can't even say that I'm a huge fan of Pokemon. I'm just very aware of it because I'm into video games and I keep up, with video game news and things like that. But I'm not a huge fan. Having said that, even when it was announced that the first live-action Pokemon film would be centered around Pikachu playing a detective, I got to say I was surprised. And, video games do not have a good track record when it comes to cinematic adaptations.
Except for the Resident Evil films. They're great. We all acknowledge that. Let's just move on.
Let's just move on. But I will say that I was thoroughly surprised. I enjoyed Pokemon. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the film. Now, the trailer sells the movie. Basically, the movie is what is in the trailer. If you think that might be interesting to you, then you might find some enjoyment in it. If you've seen the trailer and you go, that's just not my bag, the movie's not going to be your bag. I feel like to get the most out of it, it would help to be a fan of Pokemon and know the characters, because I mentioned this to Brad before we recorded. I likened, for me watching this film, I imagine this is what someone watching Ready Player One who's not into video games and pop culture, this must be what it's like for them. Because I don't know the names of the Pokemon outside of Charizard, Pikachu, and Bulbasaur.
Jigglypuff.
Oh, and Jigglypuff now.
Mewtwo.
Oh yeah, Mewtwo. That's it. Everyone else, I didn't know, but people in the audience, kids like shouting out their names, pointing them out. So I mean that was pretty cool. But yeah, but still, having said that, not having all the diehard knowledge of the franchise, I do think that the film is enjoyable. So we're gonna. I guess how are we gonna do? Are we gonna do good, the bad, the ugly, or?
Yeah, I figured we would just go back to our regular form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. Start with you, Brian. The good.
The good. I don't know. I really enjoy. Well, first, let me just say, aesthetically, I like the look of the film. I mean, it definitely reminds me of something that was kind of like Blade Runner-esque a little bit, especially like when you see the world of Rhyme City, like when we actually get into Rhyme City. I like the look and the feel of that, and just the way the cinematography was, and the production design, especially when we get out on the streets and we get into like the markets and see stuff like that. It definitely has a very, very distinctive look to it. It's not flat or anything like that. I thought the story was pretty. I think it kind of has like a conventional kind of detective story that we've seen before, kind of almost in the essence of like a Roger Rabbit, especially with the blending of animation and live action as well. But I thought a lot of that stuff was really effective, even with a lot of the plot points and even. It does have those conventional plot twists and turns that we see as we get into the third act, especially when we get into the mystery of Justice Smith's character. I think his name was Tim, I believe. The mystery around his father. But once we get into a couple of the twists and turns, especially in the third act, we can kind of see that coming. But I think it was still effective as far as like really having the emotional weight, as far as the connection that he has with his father and his own personal journey. I kind of liked a little bit of that stuff as well. And I thought Ryan Reynolds' voice acting for Pikachu actually kind of worked. I know a lot of people's fear was the fact that it may be Deadpool light a little bit, but I didn't really get that flavor from it. I mean, he has a very distinctive voice, and it's easy for you to kind of think it would be kind of Deadpool like, but I don't know. I thought he was able to really bring something that was kind of heartfelt and warm and also kind of funny to that character. But those are some of the points that I think I really not the cinematography, the visual effects I thought looked really good too, as far as like the blending of the live action with the Pokemons that we see within that live action world. I thought the visual effects were really, really effective. So yeah, those are some of the things that I liked about it.
Okay. Wife Dork.
Yes, I think I'll just start by being very open about how I feel about this movie. I was very meh on the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. I wasn't offended by how bad it was. I was just very like meh. I found the Pokemon characters really, really cute. I liked the cut to when before Tim meets the roving reporter girl. Like you just get a glimpse of Psyduck glancing from a alley with his little wide set blank stare. I thought it was so cute. I was hoping that was going to be a running gag and that we'd get Psyduck giving side eye the entire movie, but it didn't work out that way. That's okay. First disappointment. Wait, this is the good. I can't say I was disappointed because I had zero expectations.
Yeah.
Darren opened by going like, I had like, you know, you don't have a lot of Pokemon nostalgia.
Right.
I feel like I have even less Pokemon nostalgia.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm just like, I don't understand, you know, but the thing is, I don't think that that's a limitation for making a good movie. Because I've watched a ton of movies where I don't know any of the characters and I don't necessarily get all the references, but I have a really wonderful time.
Most movies you walk into.
Yeah, you don't know the characters. Yeah. so I'm not giving it a pass because of that. But I really like Justice Smith. I think he did. I like him because he's approachable. I do think he comes across as super sincere, and I think in other instances, I see that he has, you know, he could do the comedic timing kinds of stuff. He didn't have a lot of opportunity in this film, considering like the situation. I guess his character had a really kind of tragic path throughout the film. But I think considering he did not have much to play with, and he did not have that much to play off of, just in he's you know, interacting with a lot of the times nobody else actually in the scene, and he's acting against an animated character, and that has been done very well in movies, and it's been done less well in movies. But I thought that he did a good job with working off of that, and also working off of some of the other talent in this film. I'm not going to drag anybody, but I've thought that some of the other characters, I just didn't feel any kind of sincerity or depth, and that could be a materials issue, or that could be a directing issue. Who knows what that is? But like, I didn't find myself really connecting to any characters in this film. I like Bill Nye. I like seeing him and stuff. I thought the scene with the shapeshifter thing and the chick took off her glasses and she had the beady eyes. Yeah. I thought that was great. I thought that was okay. I thought that there was good things. I thought that when Pokemon was like, after he had been all beat up and he had the dirty fur and he was like, you know, just kind of lolling around, I was like, that thing's a real thing. Yeah. Like, I really felt that animated character was present. So that was cool.
Okay. Brad.
My favorite stuff in the movie, I echo, by the way, your sentiments and Lisa's sentiments about Pokemon. I have zero knowledge going into it. I played Pokemon Go for a week, and I enjoyed it, I guess, for that week. Yeah. My favorite stuff in the film was everything leading up to the missing father storyline, where we learned that Justice Smith and his friend, you know, through this little interaction where his friend tries to help him capture his own Pokemon, which was that bone skull wearing thing. Yeah. That little sequence, I thought, really set up this alienation that Justice Smith's character feels for not really being about the symbiotic relationship that humans and Pokemon can have. He's rejected Pokemon in his life because of his family situation. And I like that idea of a guy who's like, everybody in the world has a little Pokemon buddy and they're all loving life, and I don't want any part of that. I really understand that and sort of relate to that idea, especially since I'm that guy in that moment, because I'm like, I don't know what you're doing with your Pokemon. I don't want to have a Pokemon relationship. I'm good. And then when he learns that there's been an accident, there's a phone call, and he learns that there's been an accident involving his father, and Ken Watanabe's police officer character calls him into Rhyme City. I love his train ride to Rhyme City, where that big tongue thing comes and licks his face. And he's just like, ugh, Pokemon. We're
too slimy.
Because the idea is, in Rhyme City, the relationship between humanity and Pokemon is even more extreme and accepting and loving. And in this city specifically, like, everyone has a Pokemon. And, you know, there's a true relationship there. And each one, the person helps the Pokemon helps the person. I like that idea a lot, especially putting this guy in here who's resistant to the relationship. And the way that Rhyme City is shown, and it's like going into, Mos Eisley's cantina or something. And every frame, there's something going on in the background. You're like, oh, what is that panda bear guy and that lady? What are they doing? What's their story? I was compelled by these relationships and these creatures and these designs, and I did want to know more about this world and how the world operated. And yeah, I think the animals are super cute. I like the nonsensical design. Like, why does that one have an onion on its back? I don't know. What's with that weird thing that connects
like
Mewtwo's
a handle
head to his back? Yeah, why has he got a cup handle? I like all that weird design stuff. And I thought digitally, like effects wise, like Pikachu looked like a little gremlin there. I believed he was there.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me, now that you mentioned it, I was thinking like when he first goes into Rhyme City, especially getting on the train, it reminded me a little bit of Zootopia, like when Judy Hobb goes to Zootopia for the first time.
Yeah.
And just the way she experiences that and the way Justice Smith experiences Rhyme City.
Well, my favorite scene in the whole movie is when he gets to Ken Watanabe's office and there's that bulldog thing.
Oh, so
and
cute.
that dog is just such a jerk. And it just doesn't want to do anything with Justice Smith. And, Ken Watanabe's like, well, you just got to warm up to you. But then that bulldog is like mean to Ken Watanabe.
Yeah.
Like, that's funny.
But then when Justice Smith left, then the dog warmed up again. It was super cute.
Yeah. So I like the idea of these relationships with these weird little animals and how there's this one city where it's totally pristine. Theoretically, we learned that it's not. So I don't know. I like the whole setup. I like all that.
All right. I like Justice Smith. That's, I guess, my favorite thing about the film because, like Roger Rabbit, you do have a live action counterpart that has to sell the belief in that he is interacting with this just as much as the CGI has to be or the special effect has to be good to make you think Pikachu
he has to
was
up
there.
his game.
And I felt like Justice Smith did a great job. My favorite scene with him, maybe in the whole film, it was when he finds out what he thinks is the truth about his father, and he's sitting outside with Pikachu, and he tells Pikachu the story of his dad, and Justice Smith, he's crying in that scene, like, I thought his performance was great in that, but in the fact that I could be moved by that character because of his performance really stood out to me. And I echo everything that you all said as far as the special effects. Another good is there's a sequence where they are escaping a lab and there's this, I don't even want to say a tectonic shift, like the ground starts to move, like that entire sequence when you see the giant tortoise things reveal themselves. I thought that was really impressive from a visual effects standpoint.
I agree that it looked really cool, but then the scene ended with them just all sitting down inexplicably.
I think the purpose of that scene was just to expose
that
those giant, and I felt the exact same way because when they were lowering down, I go, okay, so nothing happens. But
Pikachu got hit on the head by,
and then they felt pretty bad. They're like, oh.
Yeah, but again, to pull off that sequence, I found that really impressive because you only see a small portion of that in the trailer, but like it gets way more involved and way more epic than what's in the trailer, and I appreciated that. What else did I like about Ryan Reynolds? I'll echo what you said, Brian. That was my biggest concern going into the film. Like even before seeing a trailer, them announcing that he was going to be voicing Pikachu, and I loved the Deadpool movies. I was going to say Dopinder. Dopinder makes an appearance in the movie. He's in the beginning. The cab driver from Deadpool, he's the one that takes Justice Smith out to get his first Pokemon. Anyway, but I love the Deadpool films, but my concern was, am I going to be able to separate that character from this character, from Pikachu? And I will admit, like, for the first 15, maybe 20 minutes of, maybe less than that, but the first few minutes and few scenes of the introduction of Pikachu, like I couldn't help but seeing Ryan Reynolds. I couldn't get Ryan Reynolds out of my head. It wasn't so much Deadpool. It was just Ryan Reynolds. But as I started focusing on the visual effect of Pikachu and his eyes and just the fur and the weight of that character and how they would animate it, it became like what you said, Lisa. Like by that point, definitely by that point when he's badly bruised and he's just slumped over, I was fully buying that it wasn't Ryan Reynolds. That was Pikachu and just his unique voice or whatever. And then the reveal of his dad at the end, like. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know because they never show his face.
Brad called it.
But as soon as they showed Pikachu right before that shot, and they showed the foot, like I was like, is it going to be him? And it was him, and I was like,
Brad
oh,
leaned
okay.
over to me like
in
halfway
the beginning
through
of the
movie.
Yeah.
I'm giving you less credit than you're giving
No,
yourself.
I leaned in right after they first met.
Oh yeah, but anyway, yeah, Brad called it. Ugh, and that's usually me. It makes me so sad. I can't believe I missed that one.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. But yeah, that was it. Put a little. And at first I was like, how do I feel about this? But then I was like, oh, I'm just glad to see him. Okay,
yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see him at the end.
Yeah, so I will say like the good of the film is that while I may have my nitpicky issues with it, like if I want to be like really cynical about it, I enjoyed watching it with that audience, which was like 70% children, and they loved that film and they had a great time. And it's almost like when you go watch. I'm not saying the quality in the movies are the same, but like on your rewatches, when I go back to watch Endgame and I'm watching the audience watch that film, and the fact that they're enjoying that film fills me with joy, and it makes me enjoy the experience. I think a lot of my enjoyment from this experience, not from this movie, not to take anything away from the good points that I mentioned in the film, but I had a good time because like the audience was enjoying the film, and grown-ups alike. I was flanked by an adult couple, and they weren't there with children, and they may have been my age, if not older. And then there was a family next to me. The dad was sitting next to me, and he was anxious throughout the movie, and he was responding to like certain beats. And so the fact that they were enjoying it, I don't know, it just made me feel good. So it helped me enjoy the movie a lot more. So yeah, that's from all I got for the good. Brian.
Yes.
The bad.
Bad. I don't know. I kind of fall in the same camp that what Lisa was saying, as far as like my expectations for this movie wasn't extremely high. So I really can't, like be extremely disappointed with a lot of the stuff. All I could really say is that I'm just not invested into this world. I'm just not. Yeah. And I kind of pulled a Lisa. I dozed off a little bit here and there, a little bit. Not long.
You can still love a movie and sleep through parts. That's what I proved.
Exactly. But and I put like a little blurb on Letterboxd. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's mediocre to me, but it's like. I said this, like, I can't really give people shit for their fandom.
No, of course
because, not. I mean, for me, loving Power Rangers and Turtles, if someone loves Pokemon, like, so I can't really, like, harp on this movie that bad because I know how big of a fan base and how big the fandom is for Pokemon. But I just realized watching this movie that this ain't for me.
It's funny, like, as we were leaving the theater, Brad and I had the conversation of, like, we're reaching the age where movies are going to become less catered to us. And the movies that are going to be made are going to be Pokemon, Minecraft, like all of those things that we just missed because they were for kids and we were grown-ups at the time. And it's going to be a very lonely feeling when none of the movies are for us anymore.
Here's the nice thing, though. Avengers and MCU made a ton of money.
Yay.
And we're going to have, 20 years from now, they're going to go back and revisit that for nostalgic purposes, and we'll love that.
And in doing that, putting these movies out in the way that they have it and the tremendous success, it's straddling generations. Yeah. So young people and older people.
Yeah, like MCU is like Star Wars now, right? Where like multiple generations love this thing.
Yeah.
But Pokemon is like still a thing. Like when I worked in elementary school, it was still like a thing.
Oh, yeah.
When did it start?
Oh God, in the 90s. I remember. Yeah, I remember in the 90s when that first animated movie came out. I believe it was like 99 or 2000.
Which they are. I don't know if it might have something to do with. It might coincide with the release of this film, but they're re-releasing that first movie, but they're Pixaring it up, so it's complete like CGI.
Interesting. Okay.
And it looks amazing. But they're introducing it for a newer generation. So basically, the entire movie looks like how Mewtwo looks in this film. Like everyone, the backgrounds, like all the characters look like that level of CGI. But it's that original movie.
Yeah. So I mean, and granted, like I said, I mean, Pokemon just ain't for me. But I mean, I'm glad this movie exists for those fans. I mean, unfortunately, I saw this like midday on the Saturday, which is prime time. My audience was super dry.
Yeah,
like, they were super dry.
We saw it late, and like at the end of the movie, there was someone just straight up on the phone.
Oh.
Which I thought was funny, and I didn't even care. It's just like, you take care of business.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, nothing extremely bad, but I just couldn't really get invested.
Not your thing.
Yeah, just not really for me. But
Wife Dork?
Yeah, the same. The same. I didn't understand the world. So, at the beginning of the movie, these two characters are doing the thing where they're trying to catch the Pokemon.
You've done that digitally.
I've done it digitally. That is true. But like within this context where it's a real, animal that has agency, and I was like, well, that seems wrong. Like they shouldn't be catching that cute little rhinoceros
He
thing
rejected him
in a ball. Yeah. So I thought that was weird. And then like they went to Rhyme City and they do have that one-on-one relationship. Yeah. But I didn't quite understand the power balance in that relationship. And I thought, like, because, the existence of the R, I thought that maybe,
the gas.
The gas, okay. That maybe there was some kind of reason that these wild animals who want to live on their own in this context are so placid and willing to pair up.
You thought they were going to go full Zootopia.
Yeah, I thought that they were. To me, this. I mean, not that I think that species can't live together in a mutually beneficial way, but like Pokemon are weirdly, they're not animals necessarily, but they're not people because they're Pokemon. But like to me, I'm like, okay, if they are equal, like if people and Pokemon are equal, and I can imagine a world where species are all equal and have their own equal right. But like to me, it's just like, why would they pair up? I didn't quite understand how that relationship worked. Well, and so the entire time I'm going like, this is abuse, and there's some kind of abuse subplot. And then later, like there is that instance where the Bill Nighy character does this kind of transformation where all of the souls of the people are imbued into the Pokemon, transferred into the Pokemon. And I was like, well, this is going to be wild. Because I thought it was going to be like the movie 2 of Me, where there's like Steve Martin and who is the woman in that?
I don't know what you're talking
living
about.
Inside one body. And I was just like, wow, this is going to be some really interesting interactions where these people are inside these bodies and going like, whoa. But then they just pop out and everything's fine and nobody really talks about it. So I just didn't understand exactly what was happening in that world, which is fine. I didn't completely buy the Ryan Reynolds voice either. And I think it's not what took me out of it was the acting, but the improvised lines. Like he has a style of comedy that is very distinct, and I would laugh. Like I think he's funny. But like to me, it was never Pokemon. And then you watch the whole movie with this little yellow thing, and it's Ryan Reynolds coming out. And then by the end of the movie, now Ryan Reynolds is there, and now the voice doesn't sound right coming out of that guy either. So it was very strange for me. But to me, I'm just like, let the Pokemon be free. Yeah. They don't need menial jobs. Like they can't be doctors and lawyers and stuff because nobody's bothered to learn their languages or learn how to I just don't think that it doesn't seem fair to me.
Well, the concept of the Pokemon from the manga and their initial inception is like and that's what they were saying. That's why Rhyme City was created for that purpose. Or when they showed like the old like hieroglyphics and how back in the day, in ancient times, Pokemon worked with humans for the betterment of mankind. Like in like even the manga, like the creation of those characters, or even in the anime, the movies and stuff like that, the Pokemon they want to work. They want to be with humans.
So they're like
to help.
familiars for witches.
I'm not really up on my witchcraft or witchery.
To me, I understand that, but to me, it just seems to me.
But how does that work?
Yeah, well, not necessarily how does that work, but what are the Pokemon getting out of this? Like, they're working better for the betterment of mankind? Are they working for the betterment of all kind?
They just everything. They love helping humanity. They want to be. They love helping humanity, and because in the animated movie that I've seen, the one that I said just got remade, like there are some humans who don't like, because they're monsters. That's what Pokemon is short for, pocket monsters. So there are people who just don't like the monsters, and then there are others who like them and want to protect them from the people who don't like monsters and who also want to live and coexist with them.
Make more sense. But then when you're looking out on the country where they're like running free in packs and stuff like that, and they're with, they have their families, and they just look so beautiful out in the wild, and then you go to this city, and then they seem to be
pets.
Not it's that's what I don't understand.
Well, I mean,
because if it's pets, I'm like, I guess I'm kind of okay with pets.
I don't think. I mean, the movie is not interested in exploring the relationship between Pokemon and people.
Yeah.
I think for people who have who have previous knowledge of the dynamic, it's obvious that it's not an issue. I don't think most people who are familiar with Pokemon have this issue that you have, because this movie is not interested in explaining it to you, the non.
It's just that every other movie where you meet a magical creature and you capture it and it enriches your life, at the end of the movie, you always go like, actually,
it belongs outside.
Belongs to be it belongs to be free, and live its own life.
And part of the point of Pokemon is the connection between the two.
Yeah.
Between humanity and Pokemon.
And that's in every iteration, not just the
And
live
then why is it
action
always like, how come like it has to be like one human and one Pokemon? Why can't it be two humans or two Pokemons? I just don't understand.
Well, in the comics and in the manga and stuff like that, they're like Ash. He's the main person. He has multiple Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Pikachu isn't his only one. Like he's
enslaved many.
Well,
like to me, like just to put a button on it, like to me, I sense a human leaning power imbalance. And like that sends my abusive relationship.
Get your liberal activism out of
I don't know.
Pokemon.
I'm just
Lisa.
seeing red flags all over the place.
Yeah.
Let them be free. Like there was like that nice panda family. Are all of them going to eventually
the movie
be?
I wanted the panda family.
Be are they as a family going to split up as they find their own humans? I don't know. It just seems wrong.
But the Pokemon have free will. They don't have to pair up with anybody. The Pokemon has to choose you.
Yeah, I hear you, Darren. I promise you will not change my mind.
And if they want to go free, they can go free. They don't have to go to that city.
What Lisa is saying is this movie isn't addressing any of that, so that's why Lisa has questions.
Oh,
okay. I sensed a trope, and it defied the trope in a way that I found weird.
Stop trying to put your own tropes on this film, though.
I know. I don't know. Like, what if it was like, I don't know. I shouldn't make that comparison. What if it was women, and the way you found a woman is you threw a ball at her and she threw it in a ball?
I'd watch that.
And then every woman
shot
is just
directed by Roger Corbin,
secretly wanting to be with a man.
Hey,
and then they pair off, and they have free will, but like now they're addicted to coffee and
Lisa.
and they rely on you for coffee because you
Get
wear the
your
clothes in the
feminist
relationship.
Agenda away from my Pokemon.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Brad, you're ugly. I mean, you're bad.
My bad. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like Brian. There's nothing in this movie I'm like, this is garbage. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I did not get excited about the film. I chuckled at a few things. I like the general world. I like this bizarre gizmo human relationship a la Gremlins, Lisa. They're friends.
Gizmo was a pet.
He was also enslaved.
Yeah, he was.
But I think the moment the mystery started, I really tuned out. I did not enjoy the the search for the father. I thought like the basic narrative was rather boring. I would have much rather have had a character piece where we're just exploring the world of Pokemon, where they did answer some of those questions that Lisa has. But as is, like, we saw it at a 10 o'clock showing, and I did really enjoy watching the few people who were there point at the screen and get excited when some monster walked by. Yeah. And like when, Mewtwo first appeared and things like that, and Jigglypuff in the background. I was like, I know Jigglypuff. He was awesome in Super Smash Brothers. So yeah, okay, so like bad. So I didn't really dig it on the narrative. I didn't dig on the Who Framed Roger Rabbit-ness of it. What's so great about Who Framed Roger Rabbit is it is Chinatown. Like they do noir perfectly and the mystery perfectly, and it is really engaging. Whereas this, it was just like you knew where it was going, and it went there, and it wasn't particularly interesting. Ryan Reynolds, I'm still not a fan of that guy.
Really? Overall?
Overall. Oh. I like Just Friends. That's my Ryan Reynolds. But I've never been a Deadpool fan. I wasn't crazy about his Green Lantern or The Proposal or
the change up.
I haven't seen the change up.
To me, like, I don't like any of those movies, but I still kind of like Ryan Reynolds. Like, the problem is, for me, the Ryan Reynolds is always visible to me. Like, I never lose Ryan Reynolds.
I always feel like he's the guy who pushes you into your locker and locks it.
Oh no, he's the guy in the back of the class making jokes.
No, he's the one mocking you in the back of the class for sure. He's the cool kid. I don't like him. Never have. And then so like when it's revealed at the end of the movie that the dad is inside the Pikachu, and they finally father and son are reunited, and then like Pikachu's
is
there,
back,
and he's just like Pikachu, Pikachu.
Yeah,
I was just like, well, what was he doing that whole time?
What is that guy saying?
What's his thought process? What is the actual Pikachu's thought process?
Well, apparently in that scene, Mewtwo could speak human, and so apparently in that case, Pikachu just gave up.
Yeah, apparently he willingly gave up his body,
which I just thought was bizarre.
I don't know. It's strange. It's strange.
But the thing is, now he's speaking Pikachu, and nobody can understand him. And now any kind of understanding between those
that's
two
not
creatures,
true. That's not true. They talk about that in the film where
you just have to be open.
You have to be open, and if you understand their language and their body movements, you do know what they want, and vice versa.
And then maybe we should work in that direction so we can give them some more rights.
So like in the cartoon, in the anime movies, like it's like I am Groot. Like Ash understand every Pokemon, they only repeat their names. That's all they can say is their names.
Right. Yeah.
So in the cartoon, Pikachu only says Pikachu.
So I've seen
Ash hears it, and as the Guardians hear, I am Groot, and understand what he's saying.
All you're pointing out is that the I am Groot thing has been done successfully. I don't think it was successfully done in this movie.
But in the films, there's no body transference with.
No, that's something from the movie. Okay. Yeah, that's strictly for this movie. That's yeah.
So I don't know. I guess that's it.
All right. I would say for my bad, I don't know. I just enjoyed. I mean, there wasn't anything in the movie where I felt like I don't like that or why. I don't know. I don't know. Like I accepted everything. I mean, I don't know. I just felt like
you had a good time at the movies.
I had a good time at the movies. I don't think that there was anything bad about. I'm trying to think about the ending.
There's nothing wrong with that. You can enjoy it.
I know. I did. I'm just trying to think if I'm overlooking something.
He's got to come up with his bad.
I know.
No,
there's got to be something wrong with this. It's got to be.
No, I don't. It was fine for what it was. Yeah. And again, that the experience of watching it in the theater with that audience, with all those kids, and I was just thinking, like, it's a perfect kids film. Like, these kids are loving it. Like, I can't fault that movie for being that.
Yeah, true,
so I get why they're enjoying it, even if I don't have the nostalgia that they have.
It's that whole
for it.
Roger Ebert thing, right? Where they ask if it's their whole Roger Ebert thing where if does the film succeed in what it sets out to do.
Yeah, its
And
intentions,
if
yeah.
it does, then thumbs up.
Yeah.
That may not be what you want, or really that's not for you.
Right.
But if it delivers.
But if it delivers
Yeah.
for its audience, then that's a success.
I feel like it did. I
Yeah.
feel like it did.
Absolutely.
So, the ugly Brian.
Well, I mean, Brad kind of brought up the only ugly that I really kind of had watching the movie was that train ride and the tongue
That
thing.
was so gross.
Like I was,
I agree.
It's
yeah, I
not
was like,
the tongue; it's the spitting out of the tongue spit.
I
Justice Smith commits.
was like, yeah, I was watching that. I was like, okay, this is going on a little too long, and they're showing all of the saliva. This is okay. I was like, all right.
Imagine
Enough.
like now you're still on a train. Like after
Yeah.
that happens, you're still on a train and you probably smell like mouth
Exactly.
and you're sticky.
And who knows what his breath smells like?
To me, I'm just like I would jump out of the train onto a
Lord.
train going the other direction. just end that day. That's ruined.
Yeah. So that's really the only ugly I could think of from the film.
All right, Lisa, ugly. Besides the power dynamic,
Yeah.
in the film,
I didn't. Obviously, I
And
didn't love.
saliva.
I didn't love the Magikarp like that spits water. There was another kind of
The Squirty, the Squirtle.
Squirtle. I found that triggering as an emetophobe. I thought that was gross.
Oh, not
Yeah.
Squirtle, but the magic carp. Yeah.
There's the Magikarp that
The Squirtle on
the
the
water
news.
comes out, but then there's like the
big
little
fish.
guys help. Yeah, but
No,
then
the
there's the little
firefighters.
guys helping the
Yes,
firefighters.
that's Squirtle.
Ugh.
Oh.
I don't like that because you don't see them put the water in their mouths, so it's like, where's the water coming from? I don't like it. I don't like this out of it. I just thought that the script was not like I felt like I was watching an outline to a script. I felt like there wasn't enough depth of story there, and just too much shorthand for actual emotions.
That's the thing that I think separates Roger Rabbit from this,
Yeah.
right? Whereas like Roger Rabbit, it is a very basic noir script. It is Chinatown retold. Rango is Chinatown retold, but it leans way into that genre and mixing that genre. Whereas this was just like A to B to C.
Well, I mean,
the
like
end.
quite literally, it's just like we have to go to this place to find where the R is coming from. Somebody just directly tells you where the R is coming from. You go to that place, you find this other thing. So there was never any kind of convergence of clues. You just had you just picked up the thread and then you just followed that piece of yarn till the end of the movie.
Which is a little video gamey.
I suppose, but to me, there wasn't enough story there to keep me engaged. Like, not enough complications.
Can't believe you guys are missing the two ugliest things in this movie.
Okay, Brad, it's your turn.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, I'm done.
My turn. Two ugliest things in this movie. One, the little beady eyes
Yeah,
of
that was
that
great.
transforming thing.
Ditto. That's the ditto. Yeah.
Nightmare fuel.
It is.
I'm never gonna be able to unsee it when the sunglasses come
Oh,
off.
I loved it.
She's got the little freaking like starfish eyes. Did not like that. And then two, my understanding is that Pokemon in the beginning of the movie, who's like adorable, they're going out to the field and he's wearing the skull helmet. That skull's like his mother. He's like a family member. It's like the skull of a family member.
I don't know. I don't know the logistics behind
I think
that. I don't know if
that was stated in the film
I
that
don't know if Tim was just saying that to be like sarcastic or whatever.
But whose skull helmet is that?
I don't
Well,
know.
to me, I think like you can't criticize that because that's their
I'm not
culture.
criticizing it.
And
I'm
it's like-
saying it's ugly.
Oh no, it's
it's
this
like,
beautiful cultural thing.
No.
He's honoring his
But
ancestors.
it would have been bigger. It was the same size as his head.
No,
No,
was a
it
little
had
bit
to be bigger by nature
It
because
fit on
otherwise his
his
head wouldn't fit in there.
It's as large
fitted,
as his
so-
mom's head. He puts his head in his mom's head.
Kind of like the Doof Warrior in Mad Max Fury Road.
yeah.
He's wearing his mother's
Ugly.
face.
I love it.
Yeah.
Ugly.
I'm putting that in my good retroactively. I think everybody should be wearing the skulls of their mother if that's what they want to do.
Oh, all right. Is that it for your ugly?
Yeah, those are
Brad?
my two.
Yeah, the lickety tongue thing on the train. That's all I got from my ugly. Yeah, hit us up on social media at ItMyCast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Let us know what you thought of the film. You can follow Brian Young, the Turtle Dork, at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. What are you looking forward to this week, B, besides John Wick 3? That rhyme.
B3. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really, it's just John Wick 3. I do want to mention I did see the Ted Bundy movie this past week. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting take on telling that type of story by really just kind of focusing on the veil that he put on and not really focusing on like the brutalities of the murders and
focusing on her relationship and how his actions destroy her.
Well, it goes to like that thing of like we've watched so many serial killer movies where you're getting into the mind of the serial killer. I like the fact that this is getting into the mind of the victim and just the idea of just like you want to see the best in people, you know? And she had this narrative in her head where he was this good person, and what if she did just make a mistake? You know, like what if she made a mistake in putting his name on that list?
Yeah, and the movie does kind of
and everything he says is true.
Yeah, the movie does kind of wrestle with that. So I found that to be interesting. And there was a podcast I listened to. I want to mention real quick. Sorry, D. It's on Collider. It's Collider Conversations with John Rogan and Danny Fernandez, where they talk about Avengers Endgame and how the movie tackles depression, social anxiety, and PTSD and stuff like that. And it's an hour-long conversation. I found it to be extremely fascinating the way they break down Endgame. Specifically, Danny Fernandez talked about it in relation to her experiences that she had with her father and like her dealings with depression and what she saw watching Endgame and how that movie really tackles it through characters like Thor and Tony Stark and even Incredible Hulk as well. So I just found, and of course, you know, me dealing with my own issues with that as well, I found that conversation to be extremely fascinating and things that I definitely picked up as well watching Endgame. So I think Endgame, we talk about it to death, but that movie is just has so many different layers.
And since the spoiler ban has been lifted, I've really enjoyed seeing people's reactions to the specific spoilers of the story.
Yeah.
And one of my things that I think you shared a meme going around about how grief and depression does not make you unworthy.
Yes.
And the image of, you know, sad Thor, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
It regains Mjolnir. And the response that he has to being still able to lift Mjolnir after everything that he has gone through.
Exactly.
Like, it is a very powerful concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
It shows what comic books genre, you know, superhero storytelling can really do and comment towards.
Absolutely. So yeah, I just found that to be a fascinating listen. I'll share it with you guys if you guys have an hour just to listen to it. Definitely check that out. I found it extremely fascinating. But,
awesome.
Yep.
All right. Wife Dork can be found at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. What are you looking forward to this week, Wife Dork?
I know Husband Dork has already seen John Wick Chapter 3. I'm super excited to do the trilogy as much as I can. I might miss the first film.
The first movie, but
because I'm coming from work. But I'm interested to see at least see part of the storyline back to back.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to continuing my Boston Legal rewatch. It warms my heart, makes me feel good. I've got a Twilight Zone waiting for me right now. I'm super excited about. And this one I might need a little listener help with. I logged into my Spotify lately, and my Spotify told me that with my Spotify account, I now have access to Hulu. So the Gullicksons, a whole nother streaming service available to us. So I don't know, like, should I watch Pen 15? I'm feeling like no. I'm feeling like it might make
Castle
me feel
Rock.
more. Yeah, is that what I should be watching? I don't know. I'm excited. So if you want to hit me up on Twitter and tell me what I should be watching on Hulu, I'd like to know.
Do that.
Yeah.
Mouth Dork can be found at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. You, besides your John Wick trilogy, B, what are you looking forward to this
I'm
week?
going to go out to the Alamo Drafthouse in Winchester, Virginia on Wednesday to see Murder Made Easy. Writer-director David Palermo is going to be there. He's been on the podcast in the past when we did our Genre Blast episode, and he'll be back on, so that's exciting.
All right, and I am Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias, who is looking forward to John Wick Chapter 3. And, that's going to do it for us. Stay tuned at the end of the week in honor of the multiple homicides inflicted on multiple bad guys in John Wick Chapter 3, our fistful will be a fistful of kills. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Our top 5
favorite kills, most inventive kills. Just, the way John Wick would like to see it.
All right. So stay tuned for that. It's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.